Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Shri Adinataya Namostu Tasmai Yenopatishta Hatha Yoga Vidyam Viprajate Pronataraja Yogam Arodu Micho Ratirohini. In our exploration or understanding of the path of Hatha Yoga with reference to Hatha Yoga Pratipika, we have seen about what Hatha Yoga is and how the parampara that which has started from Sri Adinatha, Lord Shiva himself, and coming down to the lineage to until the teacher was teaching us Asmadacharya Pariyanta, Vande Guru Parampara. And in that, most importantly, we have seen about the four aspects of Hatha Yoga, which are asana, pranayama, and mudra and nadhanusandhana. As a preparation to the part of pranayama, we have the kriyas also, and part of the mudras, bandhas also are all there. So all these after describing by Swatma Rama in this Hatha Yoga Pratipika, we saw about the sadhaka tattvas, that which are promoting you in the path of yoga, the six factors which will bring you down in the path of yoga, which are obstacles in the path of yoga. So that clarity we had. And after that, he talks in the next consecutive two shlokas. He gives you what are the yama and niyama. In fact, he's giving 10 list of yama, 10 and the niyama. In short, I shall just tell you those names. The 10 yamas are non-violence, ahimsa, honesty in speech, thought and action, non-thieving, which is asteya, and fidelity, forgiveness, steadiness, compassion, frankness, moderation in diet, and cleanliness of the body and mind. So these are the 10 yamas. And next, austerity, tapas, contentment, santosha, belief in God, generosity, worship of God, hearing sacred scriptures, swadhyaya, shravanam, modesty, pleasant-mindedness, and repetition of sacred mantras and sacred offerings are all known as the niyamas. So these are the 5 yama and 5 niyama which he is giving in the Hatha Yoga Pratipika. He says these are Samprokta Yoga Shastra Visharadaha. All great preceptors of the Yoga Shastras, those who have understood the Yoga Shastras better, are giving these in the list. Similar to Patanjali's Yama Niyama only, and we don't have to elaborate here. And then next, going to the next, he says Hatasya Pratamangatvad Asanam Purvamuchyate. That as asana is spoken as the first limb of the Hatha Yoga, and how you should be Kuriya Tadasanam Stairyam Arogyam Cha Angalagavam. This asana bestows. What are the things which asana gives you here? How asana should be done? Patanjali has said, Stiram Sukham Asanam. Now, what you get by doing the asana, Swadharama is saying, he says, Stairyam, which is steadfastness or steadiness in our body and mind also is achieved through the practice of the asana, steadiness, and arogyam, health. So by doing the yogasanas in a better way, you can improve your health. Swadharama himself is mentioned here. Arogyam and angalagavam. Angam becomes lagutva. The limbs, the different limbs of body becomes lighter. So that is very important aspect of the asana which you get here. After telling this, various principles are also discussed, and finally he goes on to tell you the way of doing different asanas. 15 are the asanas which are mentioned in total in the Hatha Yoga Pratipika by Swatma Rama. Out of all those 15 also, he says 4 are the most important. What are those 4? Siddham, Padmam, Simham, Bhadram, Cheti, Chatushyam. What are those asanas? Siddham, which means Siddhasana, Padmam, Padmasana, and Simham, Simhasana, and Bhadram, Bhadrasana. These are the most important, which is told by, out of all of them, all the rishis and the munis, the Hatha yogis, out of that also, Sreshtam Tatravicha Sukhe Tishtet Siddhasane Sada. Out of all these 4 also, it is more important to be seated in the Siddhasana always, is what the yogis have told. So he has mentioned about all those important asanas, and here and there he has been mentioning the benefits of asanas, that it is mentioning, it is very important tool for yoga therapy also. It is that he is mentioning about what are the health benefits that you get because of doing these asanas. Also, he has been telling. In total, in the Hatha Yoga, we see that 84 lakhs of asanas are there. And these 84 lakhs of asanas are because of 84 lakhs of species that we have. The yogis have been living a eco-friendly life, a nature-friendly life, a prakritimaya jivana, naisargika jivana, that they have been in tune with nature. Whatever they could see in nature, they adapted, understood, applied, and manifested in the form of the asanas, pranayama, and different techniques that they would do in the yoga parampara. And therefore, you have the mention of the 84 lakhs of asanas. Out of that also, 84 asanas predominantly, they can cleanse all the 72,000 nadis. The impurity in all the 72,000 nadis can be cleansed through the practice of asanas themselves, is what Svatmarama mentions here. So out of all those, in fact, all these asanas, he says, have been mentioned by the practice of, it has been mentioned by Shiva, the Adinatha himself had mentioned about all these different asanas, is what Svatmarama says. And then he also goes on to mention about the different pranayamas. But then one more important benefit of the overall aspect of the Hatha Yoga that he mentions in the second chapter, we need to understand. A shloka which I like the most, which he says, what is the benefit of Hatha Siddhi? When you do this the Hatha Yoga, especially the asana pranayama, what are those you get? He says, Papu Krishatvam, Vadane Prasannata, Nadaspudatvam, Nayane Sunirmale, Arogata, Bindu Jayogni Deepanam, Nadir Vishuddhihi, Hatasiddhi Lakshanam. So, Vapu Krishatvam, a slim body, the body becomes lighter here, doesn't mean that you become thin and or something, but it becomes lighter, Angalagavam, Vapu Krishatvam, Vadane Prasannata. Your face is always pleasant. It is cheerful. Many people think I'm doing yoga, so the yogi should be like this, very serious. No, he should be having a pleasant face. Vadane prasannata. Nada spudatvam, the manifestation of the inner sound of nada, which happens because of the meditation, and nayane sudirmale, the purity and clarity of the eyes. When your heart is clear, the eyes are clear. The face is the index of mind, we say. Even then, when you look at somebody, his eyes can tell you Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye, whether his eyes are having the conviction, the truthfulness or not. If he is telling some false, eyes can itself tell. Mothers are very good judges, and better than your wives. In fact, mothers can judge you. When you come from the college, she can easily find out whether that day something bad has happened to you, whether you are happy there, whether you're cheerful, everything very easily she can make out. That's what the yogi says, that his eyes are always clear. Look at the eyes of Vivekananda or Ramana Maharshi and Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, all these yogis. It always is very clear. So, Nayane, Sunirmale, Arogata, absence of disease. When you start practicing, when your mind is in a calm state, there is no Adi, so there is no Yadi, Arogatam. And control of your seminal fluid. Bindu Jayo Deepanam. The brahmacharya, practice of brahmacharya is very important, therefore, in the practice of yoga, especially Hatha Yoga, it is for the sadhakas. So, the brahmacharya practice through which only Kundalini is aroused, and therefore that is very important. And then stimulation of the digestive fire and purification of the nadi, nadir vishuddhihi. When you practice asana, it is not just with the nadi shuddhi pranayama or anything, even with the practice of the asana itself, nadi shuddhi happens, and further it is added by the practice of pranayama also, is what Svatmarama says. And then we need to see what are the different pranayamas, and the pranayama and kriyas are most important aspect of Hatha Yoga. The second chapter is dedicated for that, in which as a preparation for the pranayama also, it gives the practice of the kriyas. The kriyas are called the Shat kriyas, the 6 kriyas which are there. What are they? Because the order in which it is given in Svatmarama's Hatha Yoga is different, but I would see you to understand it in the physical progression of the body. First and foremost is Kapala Bhati. Kapala Bhati is not a pranayama, it is a kriya according to the Hatha Yoga. Many people often quote it as a pranayama. We practice it in the beginning of pranayama to cleanse the nasal tract, to enhance the pranayama to be better performed, as Svatmarama himself has mentioned here. And therefore, Kapalabhati is always preceding the practice of pranayama, but it is not pranayama, it is a kriya. Kriya means the cleansing technique. Kriya means any action. Here in reference to Hatha Yoga, Kriya means cleansing technique. In Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Kriya Yoga is different, the spiritual practice of attaining Samadhi. But in Hatha Yoga, the word Kriya is the cleansing technique, cleansing the physical gross body's subtle aspects. There are subtle aspects, unseen aspects of the physical body itself. So those are to be cleansed. In asana, by stretching the body here and there, we are able to do various things to maintain the physical outer aspects of the physical health. Whereas the inner health should be maintained by the cleanliness, the cleansing techniques. Kriya adds to that. So Kapalabhati is the first Kriya, which is Kapalabhati means the forehead shining. Doesn't mean that the face shines or forehead shines. The inner shining of the brain waves is what it is mentioned by doing the inhalation and continuous following continuous exhalations which are done in a steadfast manner, which is leading to Kevala Kumbhaka, the automatic cessation of breath, which is a result of Kapalabhati. It is the first and foremost Kriya that could be mentioned because it is mentioning about the forehead shining here. And second, after Kapalabhati, Trataka. Trataka is the cleansing of the eyes. Intense focusing on an object. It could be the Jyoti. The Jyoti is not the girl who is standing opposite to you, but Jyoti is the light which is there, and looking into the light of a deepam, of a lamp or a candle light could be used. Do not use electric lights, it can harm you. It's a natural light of a candle, at the most a ghee lamp which you use, and keep on looking into it until tears roll down your cheeks. Ashrupurna netrascha. Until then do it. It cleanses. Don't worry about the tear which drops down. It is cleansing the eyes. Or you can do it Trataka on the Surya or the Chandra or the stars, the nakshatra, or even the thumb. Jatru Trataka is something which we do, looking into the thumb and doing. In Karnataka, there's a practice of doing this Trataka on the Shiva Linga. Linga is the image of Shiva which you look into. It's a formless form of Shiva which you look into it and then keep doing this Trataka. So there are different ways, or even keep on looking into the picture of an Om can also be Trataka. Then this intense focusing is more important in Trataka. So this is for the cleansing of the eyes. Then there is a Mochanam Neta Rogascha. You get freed from all the eye related disorders by doing the Trataka is what is mentioned. So practically many research have also been done that by practice of Trataka, many eye related problems are getting solved. So it's better for better vision also, and it improves concentration also. So after Kapalabhati, Trataka, we come to the nasal part. For the nasal part, we have the Neti, and Neti we have here Jalaneti, Sutraneti predominantly. And Jalaneti is to use lukewarm water with a pinch of salt, and it is taken from one nostril and comes out to the other nostril, cleansing the nasal tract. Again, vice versa, from the other nostril you pour the water and it comes out to the other nostril. Practically you will be taught all those, will be demonstrated in this course itself, that Neti is an important aspect of the Kriya. The Jalaneti, Sutraneti is to have a catheter and insert it through the one nostril and it comes out through the mouth and you cleanse it. So track between the nose to the mouth is cleansed through this. So Jalaneti, Sutraneti are the cleansing of the nasal tract, and we have seen Kapalabhati, Trataka, Neti. Then we have the Dhauti to cleanse the food tract essentially. So you have the Dhauti. So Vamana Dhauti is to drink the lukewarm water and then to vomit out. So the unknown foreign particles which are spoiling your health would all be brought out when you cleanse through this habit of vomiting. So it's not Vamana Dhauti, unlike many people say, it is Vamana. Vamana is shorter, dwarf aspect of Vishnu. But here Vamana is to vomit. So Vamana Dhauti. And you have Vastra Dhauti, to swallow thin cloth and then to bring out the dust, the accumulation of all the waste in the intestines through the cloth itself. Danda Dhauti, Hatha Yogic practitioners had to take a stick. In those days it would be a wooden stick. Nowadays a rubber catheter is taken into the intestine. It cleanses and brings out the impurities out. So there are the Dhautis we have. So Vamana Dhauti, Vastra Dhauti, Danda Dhauti, and the Dhauti which we do often in the yogic practice in between, after practicing the jogging and all over speedy practices, dynamic practices, we do Mukha Dhauti, which is just to exhale forcefully from the mouth like this. Is the Mukha Dhauti that we do. All these are the Dhautis for cleansing the foot tract and the intestine. And further going down, after the Kapalabhati, Trataka, Neti, Dhauti, you have the Kapalabhati and Trataka, Neti, Dhauti, and then you have the after the practice of the Dhauti, you have Nauli in the abdominal region, pulling it completely in and then churning it out to the left and right. The Vama Nauli, Daksha Nauli, and the Madhya Nauli. Nauli is again to cleanse your intestines and the digestive system, and it's very helpful for practice people who suffer with diabetes and other digestive disorders also, and gastrointestinal disorders and all can be helped through this practice. And Basti, which is again to cleanse your excretory system, which includes Shanka Praksharana and various aspects. Basti is to cleanse your excretory system again by drinking a lot of water, lukewarm water, and doing a set of practices, exercise, which will ultimately push out the excreta through the motion that you bring it out. So that's the cleansing of the excretory system. It can be compared to the enema in the naturopathy and all. So these are the Shat Kriyas which we have. The Kapalabhati, Trataka, Neti, Dhauti, Nauli, Basti. 6 Kriyas which are Shat Kriyas. And Shat Kriyas will cleanse your system, and detoxification is what today most people want always. And therefore this is a wonderful technique, a natural way of yogic way of detoxification which happens because of all these practices. And after doing the kriyas in a better way, we move on to the pranayama. So after talking of all this cleansing techniques of kriya, and after practicing all this, then the nadis get cleansed, the subtle body gets cleansed more, and the nasal tract becomes clear more for the practice of pranayama. And in pranayama, it's more important to understand the 3 aspects of pranayama, which is Puraka, Rechaka, and Kumbhaka. And Puraka is to inhale, and Rechaka is to exhale, and Kumbhaka is to hold in between. In fact, according to the Hatha Yoga scriptures or Hatha Yoga practitioners, Kumbhaka and pranayama are synonymous. If you have to practice pranayama, it is with the Kumbhaka. But normally in today's schools, in the beginning stage, we don't prefer to do the Kumbhaka. Once you've done, just the proper inhalation, exhalation in the proper way, the proper proportion, and practiced it for a long time and have attained success in it, and then it is wiser to do the Kumbhaka. Otherwise, Kumbhaka holding the breath could be in danger also. It's always important to learn pranayama under the guidance of a direct expert in it, a guru, than watching it in the YouTube, than doing it in the online. It's very important to do it lively, directly from the teacher. It's more important in the pranayama. And 8 pranayamas are mentioned here by Padmarama in the Hatha Yoga Pratipika, called as Ashtakumbhaka. Surya Vedanam Ujjayi, Shitkari Shitali Tada, Vastrika Brahmari Murcha, Plavani Ashtakumbhakaha. These are the 8 kumbhakas that he mentions. What are they? Surya Vedana. Surya Vedana is to inhale through the right nostril and exhale through the left nostril, is generally the Surya Vedana pranayama. He is not mentioning the Chandra Vedana and everything, but later teachers have added that in the Surya Vedana, which is right to left, so left to right is Chandra Vedana, is later teachers have added to that. Surya Vedana. Next is Ujjayi, which he mentions, which is contracting the throat and producing a sound through it and holding the breath, is Ujjayi. And the Sheetkari and the Sheetali, the 2 pranayamas which are often called as the cooling pranayama, which gives a sensation of cooling to you by contracting the tongue and making a specific shape, which all you will be practicing in the practical sessions. And it has been mentioned the Sheetali and Sheetkari pranayamas. And Bastrika is like the what the blacksmith use. Stop. So the Bastrika is called the bellows breath, the bellow which is used by the blacksmiths to blow in the fire and then to create the the iron, to break the iron or to blow the iron that they use. So similarly, in a fashion, like even today, it can be compared to a cycle pump where you pump the air into the cycle tubes or tires. So it is used. So similarly, with active inhalation and active exhalation, continuous active inhalation and exhalation in a faster way is what is done in the Bastrika pranayama. And Brahmari is We have seen when we have studied the practice of pratyahara, which I have showed, by using a mudra called the Shanmukhi mudra. It is producing the sound of a female honeybee. Brahmhara is the honey, not just honeybee, any bumblebee is called the bumblebee breath. So the female bee is called the Brahmari. So producing the sound of a female honeybee, the humming sound, and using the breath control is what is the Brahmari. And the next two are the Murcha and Plavani. So the next pranayama which is mentioned in the Hatha Yoga Pratipika is the Murcha pranayama, which is nothing but after inhalation you have to perform the bandha called Jalandhara bandha, which is nothing but to interlock your chin with the neck and maintain the kumbhaka. There is what is called the Murcha pranayama. We'll see about the bandhas also. And next is the Plavani, which is the 8th kumbhaka, which he is saying. So filling abundantly the interior part of the body by inhaling deeply. So inhale deeply and fill your inner part of the body abundantly more with the air there, and then you can float like a lotus on the water. So Plavani, this year in fact is called Plavanama Samvatsara. Plava is to float. So Plavani is to do the pranayama, fill air abundantly and then hold kumbhaka and then float on the water and do the pranayama like a lotus leaf, like a Padma Padra. It's all mentioned. And many people, even today there are many who can float their body on the water. So this is the Plavani is the pranayama which helps them to do. So after telling about all this, the pranayama, we need to understand about the 3 bandhas, bandhatraya, which are Jalandhara, Udhyana and Moola bandha, which is also mentioned in the Hatha Yoga scriptures. So Jalandhara is to interlock your chin with the neck and hold the breath. And Udhyana is to pull your abdominal muscles inside and interlock and maintain the kumbhaka. And Moola bandha is to suck in your anus upward with the inhalation and hold it there and make a lock. So all this are helping us to lock the air inside. The kumbhaka is important. So bandha is making us to make the knots, to release the inner knots. So like one, sometimes in a cloth or somewhere where a knot has happened, to release this one knot, you put another knot and release it. Similarly here, these bandhas are inner subtle blocks which you make to unlock the hidden blocks which are there in the progression of the Kundalini power, in the progression of the vital life force energy of prana which is happening. So bandhas are 3 bandhas: Jalandhara bandha, Udhyana bandha and Moola bandha. And then mudras, the different mudras are often mentioned. There are mudras connected with the Pancha Vayu, there are mudras which are connected to the Pancha Pranas, there are mudras which are connected to the Pancha Bhutas of the Akasha, Vayu, Agni and Apaha, which is water, and Prithvi. These different mudras which are there all are mentioned for the practice of pranayama. Pranayama mudras are not independent, but mudras are used to do the pranayama in a better way and to enhance the pranic energy in a much more and a better way. Simple, the chin mudra, what we do, just bringing the thumb and the index finger together, stretching the other 3 fingers out. This can give a wonderful nerve impulse and stimulate all the nerves of the body and bring you to a wonderful control of the breath also, and take you to a beautiful meditative state. It improves, enhance your memory power, concentration, all is what we see. So one simple practice of even chin mudra can be this benefit. So there are multiple mudras which can give multiple benefits. All those are mentioned, out of which one of the most predominant mudra in the Hatha Yoga tradition is the Kechari mudra. Kechari mudra is done by, like in Brahmari what we do, to turn the tongue inwards upward. Here the tip of the tongue is taken to the more depth, to the depth of the throat even it is taken. And that is how Kechari mudra is performed. It's supposed to secrete amrita, the nectar, by practicing of the Kechari mudra. But it should all be practiced with the expert guidance of the Hatha Yoga practitioners, the Nada Gurus, and then you can achieve success in it. And then Nadanusandhana, there is a natural tendency of hearing some inner sounds when you practice meditation in a deeper way. The Anahata, Ahata is a sound we maintain or we produce outward externally, the Om sound or Akara, Ukara, Makara. But Anahata is a sound which is naturally heard within. Usually in the practice of meditation on the Sandhana, we can do loud and silent, voluntary silent chanting, or by our prayatna, by our effort that we do, eventually it becomes effortless and the inner sound starts natural and spontaneous. In fact, certain sounds like the vadyas, like the instruments, what we hear, in fact, the musicians in those days were yogis, so they have developed the musical instruments externally by hearing the inner sounds of the bheri, of the mridanga, and of the trumpet, the nadaswara, or it could be the veena and the venu, the shankanata. All those are inner sounds which are heard, which are brought outside through instruments for the benefit of people who can't hear the inner sounds. So Nadanusandhana is to do anusandhana, contemplation of the sounds which are heard, and meditate on that. That becomes a wonderful technique of meditation through which the Unmani Avastha, Manomani Avastha, and a lot of other subtle aspects are enjoyed, and ultimately this takes you to the state of meditation. The Dharana Dhyana Samadhi further in the Ashtanga Yoga is achieved through all these practices. So Hatha Yoga Pratipika focuses on the Kriya, the preparation, and added to that is the Bandhan Mudra, to which you perform the asanas, and in the asana you do the pranayama and do the Nadanusandhana, which leads you to the Dharana Dhyana Samadhi, again of Ashtanga Yoga. So these goes interconnected. So you can't separately take out the Hatha Yoga without making it to reach the heights of Raja Yoga, or you can't complete the practice of Raja Yoga without the understanding of Hatha Yoga. They go hand in hand. It's very well emphasized by Swatma Rama in the Hatha Yoga Pratipika again and again, and the commentators like Brahmananda and the Jyotsna and all the scriptures have also endorsed it. So we need to understand this and integrate the practices in a better way than separating it out and making them bits and pieces. Let's learn the holistic aspect of yoga, which is Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, all put together, the integrated approach of yoga in a better way. The Samagraha Yoga Sadhana is what is more important, and maybe do that, maybe learn that, maybe practice that, and become yoga sadhakas, and ultimately achieve this Hatha Siddhi as mentioned in the Hatha Yoga Pratipika.